Divine Attributes, Part 10. We will cover more divine attributes today, and there are 4 lined up: Al-Samee, Al-Basir, Al-Shakoor, and Al-Aqaab. And these are the references. And this is our contact in case there is any question, query regarding this presentation or any of our previous presentation. In fact, this is the number to get in touch with Idaratul Islam. First slide is, what is the challenge before us? We possess a certain level of understanding and knowledge about the world of 2025. We now know that another choice exists through which the man-made systems can be replaced in phase 1 in some part of the world, and the procedure and process for that is laid down in the Quran. We have gone over this point previously as well, that if there is no Quran, or we do not follow the Quran, or we do not come to the Quran, then essentially we are living under one system that is made by human beings, and we don't have a choice. So Quran provides an alternative system to the man-made systems. The book of Allah, whose laws prevail in the universe, including planet Earth. And why it is important? Because this is a book from Allah, and His laws dominate even man-made laws, because when man-made laws produce certain results, those are in accordance with the laws created by Allah. That is, the negative effects of man-made laws are exactly those which are noted in the Quran. We as humans possess many latent potentials, some of which we manage to bring out without the guidance of the Quran. This striving helps us to get through the physical side of our life in the world, but cannot bless us with that self which is based on new life, for which the Quran provides help. Again, we have gone over this point previously as well, that the self which we possess, each human being, because we have choice and intent, and we have a personality, and that personality forms as we live our life. And under man-made system, it is the man-made system which influences this personality. And we can see that in the world as well. Whereas Quran asks us that be aware of it and come to the Quran and form your personality, create a new life within you, which will give you that vision through which you'll be able to see the wrongs existing within the man-made system, and you will then aspire for a better life, which is explained in the Quran. The acquisition of this new life is the prerequisite to understanding the system of Deen as explained in the Quran. And this is another important point which we should absorb in our mind, that before we come to the Quran and try to understand it, we have to have a developed self, which means that we first go through the Quran and gradually acquire these values and manifest these within our own self in order to see the finer aspects of the system which is put forward by the Quran. To turn these latent potentials, which each human being is endowed right at the time of his or her birth, into tangible outcomes, we acquire understanding of the importance of the permanent values, and then we identify our potentials by comprehending the divine attributes. We have gone through some of these permanent values, and we managed to see that how important these are in terms of helping us to understand the higher purpose of life, setting a higher goal in life, and then trying to get best out of us. We identify our potentials by comprehending the divine attributes. All this is carried out on a continuous basis after strengthening our iman through salih deeds. So this is another important point, that once we have acquired iman and we have made a decision that the guidance of the Quran is for me, then we cannot come out of it. If we come out of it, then we will lose all the benefits of following this path. This platform is created with a view to acting on the precept. Quran says, Yatlu alayhim ayatihi wa yuzakkihim wa yuallimuhumul kataba wal hikmah. i.e., going over the selected verses of the Quran, acquiring knowledge of the book and its hikmat, that is attribute, and developing ourselves on a continuous basis with 100% commitment. 100% commitment is important, not mechanically, that saying to myself that I have to do it. No, I don't have to do it. I will do it because it is in my benefit, in my interest to follow it. And in this platform, we are trying to make efforts to educate ourselves about the book of Allah and its contents and its hikmah, that is the rationale behind it, and to develop ourselves in our own time. The next slide is divine attributes explain the thinking behind the creation. The addressee of the Quran is the human I, and this is done through our intellectual potentials. The Quran puts a proposition before us. Would you like to become a companion of Allah to carry out those responsibilities which Allah has defined for Himself? And this is a big undertaking, not an easy one, but once we make a decision to become companion and accept Iman, then things start to fall in place. It's a very slow, gradual, progressive process. It's not achieved in one day. It is spread over many years. Then the Quran explains various salient aspects of this newly acquired companionship with Allah from beginning to end. And because, according to the Quran, life does not end with death, continuity of life is a permanent value at the level of human self. So that means that this human self, after getting rid of its physical body, moves forward. And over here in this world, we are living under man-made systems, and if the system of Deen is established, then of course we will be handed over by that system to the next life. And the next life is totally under the direct control, direct laws of Allah Himself. Firstly, it tells us about our value as a human being possessing physical and cognitive potentials, and how we will behave or make choices individually and collectively without its guidance. So Quran makes it very clear, the both types of lives, the life which is lived at an animalistic level and the life which is lived at the level of mu'min and muttaqi. It points to various strengths and limitations of our ability to make choices, and this choice making is being controlled by the law of requital in terms of their effects. And we know that how much emphasis Quran puts on the law of requital, that each human being is accountable for whatever they do as they live their life on this planet Earth. Secondly, it tells us that there is no inbuilt guidance within us due to the presence of choice and intent. And we can check it ourselves because we make number of choices every day as we live our life. Hence, here is another choice of the Quranic guidance, which is made available free to each one of us individually as well as collectively. It then explains to us the benefits of following its guidance, which will lead to creating a world without fear and grief. And we covered this aspect under the divine attribute of hikmat, and will help us to develop all those latent potentials which are present within us. This will lead to success in the life of the hereafter. And hereafter over does not only mean the life after we die, but hereafter is also the days which are yet to come. For example, tomorrow will be the hereafter of today. Thirdly, it tells us that when this guidance is followed as noted, it will keep guiding towards the intended destination progressively. And what is the intended destination? As far as this life is concerned, according to the Quran, is to establish the system of Deen. And for the hereafter is to keep developing further at an evolutionary pace at the level of human self. And the path being clearly signposted will keep appearing in front of us. The next is divine attributes, listing the main ones. And we have shared this slide before as well. It will just highlight some of the divine attributes which we have already covered. These are in yellow. And we will cover Al-Basir today, Al-Shakoor, Al-Samee, Al-Aqaab, and Al-Shakoor. Al-Shakoor and Al-Shakoor there is a shade of difference between the two. When going through the verses containing any divine attribute, we should also analyze each verse in reverse order. And this is something which is important because normally these divine attributes come at the end of each verse, and we have to see that what is in it for us as human beings. For example, I picked up this verse, وَتَمَّتْ كَالِمَاتُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا لَا مُبَدِّلَ لِكَالِمَاتِهِ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. So two have appeared, two attributes, divine attributes have appeared here, Sami and Aleem. Sami will cover today. And the meaning of this verse will be, the word of your Rabb finds its fulfillment in truth and in justice. So Sidqam Adlan is translated as truth and justice. None can change his words. La mubaddila likalimatehi, that Allah's words, his laws, his values cannot be changed. These will remain the same from beginning to the end. For he is the one who hears and knows all. And he has stated this because he knows everything. So what is in it for us? And in reverse, we need to hear and enhance our knowledge, and that is for us, that we should become Sami and Aleem in order to prove to ourselves, that is our I, that this book contains all that we need for Deen, because it has been completed. And that since it is immutable, and that is the consistency and permanence in it, and then it is preserved, hence we will always reap its benefits if we keep following it. And all these benefits we know are given in the Quran very clearly. So that is how we should look at these verses wherever Allah's divine attributes appear. The next divine attribute for today's presentation is Al-Samee. The root is given over here, Al-Samee, name of that potential of the ear through which man perceives sound. So this is the listening ability or hearing ability of each one of us. Listening, as well as sometimes the ear itself, is called Al-Samee. Furthermore, the thing which is heard is also called Sama. The meaning of Sama includes both the listener and the one who causes to listen. Some linguists have refuted the later meaning, that is the one who causes to listen. But it makes no difference, because it is about listening and hearing and then acting on it. The meaning of istama alayhi is to become attentive to someone, using hearing to listen to someone attentively. So that means that this listening should be done attentively, by paying attention, by focusing on it. In one of the verses, Quran says, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَسْتَمِعُونَ إِلَيْكَ أَفَأَنْتَ تُسْمِعُ الصُّمَّ وَلَوْ كَانُوا لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. Among them are some who listen to you, but can you make the deaf to hear, even though they are not using their intellect? So that means merely listening to something means nothing. For example, we are all listening to this presentation, but at the same time we have to absorb it and also look into it, that what is in it for us and for the system of Deen. The Quran has stated that through hearing, seeing, and the heart, conceptual knowledge is obtained. We have gone through it before as well under knowledge. If this is not used, then it leads to a great disadvantage, because then we are not converting all the information through our senses into knowledge. And knowledge means something which then takes us a step further, because we have to utilize that knowledge in our life. And Quran says, وَلَقَدْ زَرَعْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ أَعْيُنٌ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ أَذَانٌ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا. There is a bit more to this verse which we can have a look in our own time. Many are jinns and ins, and we know jinn means all those human beings who were not visible to those living in the urban areas. It means Bedouin and nomadic people. We have made for Jahannam, and Allah hasn't made them for Jahannam. It is because they are not using their senses and their intellect. They have hearts wherewith they understand not, eyes wherewith they see not, and ears wherewith they hear not. Sometimes this word is related to obedience, i.e. Ismaun means Atiun. Sama is also sometimes applied to reflection and reasoning as well. So we can see that it has a number of meanings emanating not just from hearing, because hearing is as far as hearing is concerned, we use our intellect and try to make sense of the voices coming into our head. Now, next slide is listening to the Quran and acting against it. I've taken this paragraph from volume 2 of Meanings of the Quran, and this reflects quite well on the state of Muslims in 2025. The Quran has declared that the practical meaning of Deen is to listen to the divine commands intently. The Quran contains words of Allah, and this is something we should keep in mind, that it is not an ordinary book. When we listen to it or we read it, and particularly I'm talking about listening. For example, whatever I'm saying from the Quran, that means we are all listening to it. I'm listening to it myself as well. So these are the words of Allah which are finding their way into our mind. And are we processing it properly as directed by the Quran, or we are just listening and then ignoring it? To understand them and to act according to them, i.e., it is necessary to listen to them and understand them so that afterwards they can be acted on. But if the situation is such that you keep listening to the words of the divine commands and after that keep acting against them, then it is obvious what the outcome of this will be. And I paid a lot of thought to this aspect, which the Quran has put forward, that if we are listening and we have grasped some part of it and we do not act on it despite having the ability to act on it, then we are doing a great harm to ourselves. And this actually puts impediments on our path for future path as well, that whatever will come from the Quran in the future, we will also find some resistance within ourselves. Just think, is this not what our own situation has become reduced to? The extent to which we read or listen to the book of Allah, its example will not be found anywhere else in the world. And this is what I have pointed earlier, that it affects our psyche, that we become very rigid, very stubborn, and we start ignoring whatever we have heard. Initially, it might have some impact, but gradually, when we see that ignoring the Quran, disobeying the Quran did not make much difference in our life, then we become totally oblivious to it. And then the way in which we act against it in our practical life, its example also will not be found anywhere else in the world. And contrary to that, if we listen and then follow and then make an effort to live up to the standard put forward by the Quran, we will see that over a period of few years, there will be a tremendous change within our own life, and we will also become a better model for the people around us. Allah had stated that, say, we have listened and we will act according to it. The Quran said, has noted it, that Mu'mineen, in fact, this verse is very, very powerful if we can read before and after it. Sameena wa atana. What it says is that Mu'mineen have accepted Iman in the Quran exactly the way Messenger has accepted Iman, and then they say Sameena wa atana. That is, we have heard it and we are going to obey it because it is in our interest to obey it, because it is going to give us the benefits associated with listening to the message of Allah. Contrary to this, what we say with our tongues is that we hear, that is Sameena, and we disobey Asaina, Sameena wa Asaina. And these verses have come in context with Bani Israel as well. That is, we know what is going on with Gaza and Palestine. And this is the state of listening and not going with that message of Allah. And this is the state of all these people of the book, which includes the present-day Muslims. We listened, in fact, we listened very well, but we will act against it. And we have seen from the root of Sameena that it means that we have understood what we heard, what we listened. Aside from reading and listening the Quran on a daily basis, the assiduousness with which we listen to the Quran in the 1 month of Ramadan, and not only in the whole month, after that the way in which we complete it in every single night, this is called Shabina. This is the uttermost limit of listening. So it is not that the Muslims are not listening to the Quran, it is that they are not listening the way the Quran wants them to listen and then to act on it. So they are not acting on it. As a result, they become, they are displaying that rebelliousness and going against the Quran. and it's a very serious crime according to the Quran. Some possible applications of this attribute. Acceptance of Iman means to become a part of those where it can be enhanced. And Quran says, فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا وَإِنْ تَوَلَّوْا فَإِنَّمَا هُمْ فِي شِقَاقٍ فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. So two divine attributes have appeared here, Samee and Aleem. Say, if they accept Iman as you have accepted Iman. So that means it is from the Messenger of Allah that the way Messenger of Allah accepted Iman, all those who claim to follow him should also accept Iman exactly the same way. That means once they accept the Iman, like the Messenger or whoever is leading, then others should also behave exactly the same way, which is signposted in the Quran. They are indeed on guidance. But if they turn back, it is they who are in schism. And schism means that this leads to creating dissonances within human personality, because it becomes some sort of a dichotomy, duplicitous kind of a behavior, that what we say from our tongue, we do not follow it. And in the language of the Quran, لَمَا تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ, Quran says that don't say things which you are not going to follow. But Allah will suffice you as against them, and He is all hearing and all knowing. So Quran is telling us again and again that if you have come to this path, then follow it 100% with the connivance of your heart. And if you're not going to follow it, Quran says, then it is your decision, but you should know the consequences of it as well. One aspect of enhancing knowledge is to use hearing, i.e. good all-round communication in society. فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ بَعْدَ مَا سَمِعَهُ فَإِنَّمَا إِثْمُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُبَدِّلُونَهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. If anyone changes the bequest after hearing it, the itham, that is the wrong, shall be on those who make the change, for Allah hears and knows. And this is very interesting that it is in relation to making a will. And Quran has directed mu'mineen that they must make a will before that they die. And Quran over here says that this will cannot be changed, and there should be a proper procedure in the society to record it, and it should be a sort of a law. And over here it says that if it is not followed, then ithmuhu, what will happen is that it will affect yourself. It will exhaust you. It will slow you down. It will affect your psyche. And as a result of that, these things go into subconscious of human beings. And then people make far bigger mistakes if they do not resist it at a lower level. This also means to create sub-clauses to deal with solving human problems and to ensure that the public is well aware of the issues and their solutions. So that means that all these laws will have sub-clauses how to implement these in the society. And these will also become part of training and teaching of children. Making people aware of matters related to the acceptance of Iman, let them hear it clearly and comprehend it fully, i.e. what is Iman. And Quran says, La ikraha fi ad-Deen, qad tabayyana ar-rushdu min al-ghayy, faman yakfur bit-taghut wa yu'min billah, faqad istamsaka bil-urwat al-wusqa la infisama laha, wallahu samiyyun alim. There is no compulsion in Deen. Truth stands out clearly from error. Whoever rejects Taghut, that is, whoever rejects the man-made system, the unjust system, and accepts Iman in Allah, has grasped the most trustworthy handhold that never breaks. And all of this is based on knowledge. And Allah hears and knows all things. And of course, this involves hearing as well, because we live in a man-made system and we should be fully aware of what is going on around us. And we can listen to media and keep ourselves with up to date with the events around us. Next slide is a few more verses on Al-Samee to enhance its understanding. Acquiring those desires which are related to becoming the righteous of the highest order. And Quran says, Rabbana innana samena munyadiyan yunadi lil imane an aminu bi rabbikum fa amanna. Rabbana faghfir lana zunubana wa kaffir anna sayyiatina wa tawaffana ma'al abrar. It is a kind of supplication for mu'mineen. Our Rabb, we have heard the call of one calling to Iman, accept Iman in your Rabb, and we have accepted Iman. So it is important that those who have understood, they should pass it on to others and become good models for others so that they can come together and then proceed forward in life to reap the benefits of becoming Mu'min. Our Rabb, give protection from the effects of our lapses, remove from us the effects of our wrongs, and take to yourself ourselves in the company of Abrar. And Abrar is from Bir, which means that vastness of vision where we start to see things clearly and our self develops. And once it self develops, then it starts doing those things, carrying out those actions which Allah has noted down in the Quran. And for this, we can look at the verse 177 of Surah Al-Baqarah, where Iman and the subsequent actions of those who have become Mu'min is noted. Striving collectively in the path of Allah with full commitment of the heart and mind. And Quran says, وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Then fight in the cause of Allah and know that Allah hears and knows. And over here, fight means to strive. And of course, the ultimate end can be some kind of a confrontation with those who do not accept the message and start fighting against it. To be fully aware of our own psyche and to deal with it using the Quranic precepts. And Quran says, وَإِمَّا يَنزَغَنَّكَ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ نَزْءٌ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. If a thought from shaitan assails you, seek refuge with Allah, for He hears and knows. So that means if we are hearing something wrong and it is affecting us, then we should become aware of it and we should have a knowledge of it. So these things are all interlinked. When we are using our senses to collect information, to listen to others, to talk to others, then we have to be fully aware of what is going on around us and what others are saying and what impact those might have on everyone around them. And this also includes not to waste time on useless conversations. In order to bring a change in our psyche, we need to listen willingly, understand, and then respond to it tangibly. And Quran says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَهُمْ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ. And this is a terrible indictment against human beings who listen and then do not act. Do not be like those who say, we hear, but listen not. So there is a huge responsibility placed on each one of us as students of the Quran. Because if we have come to the Quran, then we should try to get the best out of it. And this is important because if we do not, then we will realize that how much harm we have done to ourselves once we go on to the next stage of life. Samee is covered in a numerous verses in the Quran. So I picked up on only the salient points just to illustrate its importance. So as we will be going through the Quran, these things will again show up before us. The next divine attribute is Al-Basir. Basar, and this is the root. Basrun is that light through which the eye can see things which are visible. Then its application is also on the eye itself. Its meaning is also some matter finding a place in the heart, because it is a sense. We see things and those, whatever we see and observe then affects our intellect. On this basis, its meaning is also knowledge. The one who sees as Basirun is called Alim or scholar. So this is an important sense to collect information and convert it into knowledge, just like Samee. Basirat means power to understand, intellect, reason, lesson and instruction, also eyewitness and evidence. And this Basirat is normally translated into English as vision or being insightful. The Quran presents its guidance on reasoning and evidence and instructs us to understand it through knowledge and Basirat. Hence, in human life, the status of Basirat is very lofty. But the way to see physical things, there is the requirement for the human eye and external light. In the same way, to understand the realities of life, there is the need for human Basirat and the guidance of Wahi, the Quran. So in order to understand the Quran, we need basirat. If any of this is missing, then realities and values cannot be comprehended. Hence, mu'mineen are those who operate in the world in the light of wahi using their own basirat. And there should be a pleasure attached to it, because we have seen that as we go through the Quran, new aspects of our own psyche appear before us. And then when we follow some of these values in our own life, even within the man-made system, these enhance the status of our own self. Some of the things which were lying obscure previously, then these become visible to us. The Quran refers to this divine attribute at a number of places, that is Al-Basir, and Allah calls himself as Al-Basir. Verily, it is Allah who hears and sees all things. I've quoted also this verse. We can have a look on that. It is obvious that this does not mean to see like human beings. It means that he has knowledge of everything and every human deed is in front of him. Nothing is hidden from his law of requital, and that is how the system of Deen will also function, that accountability will function in that, and not with a view to catch people, but to guide them to develop their own self so that they willingly become part of the whole system and benefit from it. Some verses in relation to this divine attribute. The Quran draws a comparison using the human senses, and Quran says, Matalul Frikaine Kal Ama Wal Asamme Wal Basire Was Samiye Hal Yastaviyane Matalan Afala Tazakkarun. These two kinds may be compared to the blind and deaf, and those who can see and hear well. Are they equal? Will you not then reflect? And this is important. We also experience that some of the people with whom we share the message of the Quran, they don't seem to be interested. And Quran says that at that stage, they are still deaf. And if they see the things, for example, a lot of people read the Quran and still it does not bring any change in them, which means they are not paying attention to it. The Quran can only benefit those who use intellect, reasoning, and basirat. And Quran says, for example, in the case of the messenger Lut, وَلُوتًا إِذْ قَالَ لِقَوْمِهِ أَتَأْتُونَ الْفَاحِشَةَ وَأَنْتُمْ تُبْصِرُونَ. The messenger Lut said to his people, do you do what is shameful though you see? That is, you have eyes as well as vision. So all the wrongs which they were doing were visible to them, and also they were perceiving them to be wrong, but still they were insisting on doing wrong and ultimately got punished. Our life is a one-way street with no possibility of getting time back. Hence, it is important to make the right choices in life. And this is another thing to which the Quran repeatedly draws our attention, that this life of yours, the physical one, is finite. And this time is not going to come back. So what Quran does is that by making us realize the importance of time and the importance of self-development, puts emphasis on that do not waste time. Do not waste time on, for example, on using your senses wrongly by listening to loads of rubbish, which means nothing. And conserve it and utilize it positively, which enhances your self-development. Add to your knowledge. Even within the man-made system, we can do a lot. قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ بَصَائِرُ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ فَمَنْ أَبْصَرَ فَلِنَفْسِهِ وَمَنْ عَمِيَ فَعَلَيْهَا وَمَا أَنَا عَلَيْكُمْ بِحَفِيظٍ. And over here, Quran says, now have come to you from your Rabb facts. And over here it is basair. If any will see, it will be for the good of his own self. If any will be blind, it will be to his own harm. I am not here to watch over your conduct. And this is another important point, is that each one of us is responsible for his own self-development. But collectively, moving forward is important of those who have decided to work for the system of Deen. So after accepting Iman and then doing Saleh deeds, a need and desire should arise within each student of the Quran to be together and to move forward. That is the way system is formed. That is the way the Quran asks us to do. And this has a practical value, because without coming together and moving forward, the system cannot take shape. Human accountability is flawless. Balil insano ala nafsihi basiratun. Nay, man will be evidenced against himself. And then our individual life is fairly short and finite, hence results appear before us fairly quickly. Fasatubsiru wa yubsirun. Soon will you see and they will see. It looks very long, but if we look at the way day comes and day goes and days turn into weeks and weeks into months and months into years, we will see that at the end of every year, it will look as if it was just a second which has passed away. So this is the way it is. And those who become very alive using the Quran, then they will be able to see that they have achieved a higher level of their self-development than what they had at the beginning of the year. Next divine attribute of Al-Shakoor. Shukr, the fundamental meaning is of something being completely felt. In this way, it's becoming prominent and manifested. Shakara fulanun is that person showed generosity with a full heart and helped people generously. So generosity is part of the meaning of this root. Zaratun shakra, an animal's mammary glands being full of milk. There are a number of other meanings related to this aspect in the Lughatul Quran. I've just picked up one line from there. Mashkur, effort, meaning that striving which produces full results. Shukr is not just saying few words that thank you or shukr Allah and these kind of terms which are not really producing any results. It means some kind of action, some kind of striving. The meaning of Allah being Shakir will be the one who produces full results of human efforts, that is deeds and actions, which means that if we want to become Shakir, our deeds and actions must also produce positive results for which we are working. And the intentions behind those deeds and actions will be part of our Iman. From the direction of human beings, displaying shukr of nema, that is the bounties of Allah, will mean to not cover up the nema bestowed by Allah. And this includes our own intellectual abilities as well as our physical abilities. So whatever we are doing and the actions, the deeds, and the results they produce will be covered under this aspect. Rather, to maintain these so prominently that everyone can benefit from these. This is why the word shukr comes as the opposite of kufr. So there is an action involved over here. Kufr means to keep something under cover. This will be called to value the name of Allah, that is bounties of Allah, i.e. to utilize these for the purpose that they are provided by Allah. Hence, shukr will mean to work according to correct procedure and law in such a way that this leads to optimum outcomes. In this way, the outcomes of our hard work, also whatever is bestowed free from Allah, and we can see plenty of things are bestowed free to each one of us, are to be kept available so that all people can benefit from it. Through this, our own human potentials are also fully developed. This is shukr of our own self. And becoming aware of it is extremely important because this awareness then expands our vision. It gives us access to those areas which are very dark and are not available to those who haven't come to the Quran. By helping someone and then expecting shukriya, that is thank you, some kind of gratefulness does not suit a moment. And Quran says, Innama nutimukum liwajhillahi la nuridu minkum jazam wala shukura. We feed you for the sake of Allah, no reward do we desire from you nor thanks. In any case, this is part of the man-made system. Once the system of Deen is established, then these things will not arise because over there the system will take care of everything. Expanding Al-Shakoor and Al-Shakir at collective level. Now, one aspect of Shakir and Shakoor is that Shakir is of a lower intensity as compared to Shakoor. That is, under Shakoor, we go to the extremities of displaying our best in the outer world. In the story of Bani Israel, there are the means of basirat for a nation. And Quran says, Laqad arsalna Musa bi'ayatina an akhrij قومك من الظلمات إلى النور وذكرهم بأيام الله إن في ذلك لآيات لصبار شكور. We sent Messenger Musa with our signs, bring out your nation from darkness into light. And this is something very powerful for us to imagine, that each one of us who have come to the Quran, now we have exposed our own intellect to the light of the Quran and overcome some of the darknesses, identified those darknesses which existed in our previous life, which was unguided. And that means we should help others to identify those darknesses and give them a choice whether they wish to overcome those darknesses or not, and treat those darknesses with the help of the Quran. Bring out your nation from darknesses into light and remind them about the days of Allah. And we can see plenty of those darknesses in the world of 2025. And over here, days of Allah means when the system will be established. And we have to have a desire for that, because this is a word of desires. Human word is word of desires. Desires have been created within us. We can desire anything we want. And that is why Quran is asking us that you should desire for the days of Allah. Verily in this there are signs for such who are sabir and shakoor. And sabir means who are persistent, who are consistent, who are continuously working on this path. And shakoor, of course, is to bring out their best. Making a choice to adopt the correct path. And Quran says, Inna hadainahu sabila imma shakiram wa imma kafura. So we can see that shukr and kufr have appeared opposite to each other. We showed him the path, whether he be shakir or manifest kufr. So shakir is the one who is the mu'min, and the muttaqi and saleh and all those muhsin and all those good adjectives used for righteous people. The path presented by the Quran converts a collective state of weakness and vulnerability into strength. وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ وَأَنْتُمْ أَذِلَّةٌ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah had helped you at Badr, that is at the battle of Badr, when you were weak. Be muttaqi so that your best can come out. So what Quran is saying is that now you move to the next stage. And of course, Mu'mineen at that time then were confronted by the enemy in subsequent battles. So what Quran is saying is that don't sit down just with one success. Go forward, and you have numerous challenges ahead of you. No further messenger is coming to the human world, and the Quran is preserved for all times. Hence, ordinary human beings have to make a choice to assume the duties of the book of Allah. And this is for us. There is no more messenger coming. Allah's book is preserved, and now it is our choice whether we want to work towards that aim which Allah has explained in the Quran or not. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ أَنْقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ وَمَنْ يَنْقَلِبْ عَلَىٰ عَقِبَيْهِ فَلَنْ يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ شَيْئًا وَسَيَجْزِي اللَّهُ الشَّاكِرِينَ. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is no more than a messenger of Allah. Many were the messengers that passed away before him. And see how Quran has said that he is the messenger of Allah and he is a human being. He will leave at some point in time. If he died or was slain, and he has died, will you then turn back on your heels? So Allah's book is there. Allah himself is there. So what is the problem? This is what the Quran is telling us. That the book is with you. You can see the darknesses covering the whole of the world. Why don't you get up and do and become the companion of Allah if you have understood it? If any did turn back on his heels, not the least harm will he do to Allah. But Allah will swiftly reward those who become shakir. And this is the beautiful part of it, that if they become shakireen, and coming to the Quran means that one is becoming a mu'min, muttaqi, shakir, and all those divine attributes which are mentioned in the Quran, these students of the Quran can manifest in their self. And then they will see that how things will start changing in the outer world. So there are two parts of the contract. The first is that Tansurullah, that is, they have to help Allah in His cause and then see how Allah's laws help them. The next divine attribute, that is the last one of today's presentation, is Al-Aqaab. Aqaab, this is the root over here, Al-Aqbu, Al-Aqibu, Al-Aqibatu, and there are a number of other derivatives also noted in Lughatul Quran. I just picked up these three. The meaning of these words is the end of all things. This is the original meaning of this root. That is the ultimate end of something, that we are doing something and then what is the end of it. The rest of its many meanings revolve around this central meaning. Al-Aqbu is progeny, that is the children or the race which follows behind man, for example, sons, grandsons, so and so forth. Al-Aqabu, each one of those things which is heir to another thing, comes behind it. The day is also called Al-Aqba, so is the night, as these follow or succeed each other. So something which is following another one. Taqub, and those of us who know Urdu, this word is used over there as well, to chase someone, going after someone, arresting someone due to some crime and to punish him for a crime. Al-Aqabtu, a difficult path to climb a mountain. Ibn Faris has noted its meanings of height, hardship, and difficulties in its fundamental meanings. The Quran, by using the derivatives of this root, has guided us to a great reality. The meaning of the law of requital is that the outcome of every deed is attached to it, i.e., the deed moves ahead and following it is its consequence. So whatever we do today, its impact we will be reaping tomorrow. And that is why Quran has repeatedly said that whatever you are doing today, you should be fully conscious of it, that what will be its consequences in the coming days. This is called reward and punishment. Hence, reward and punishment does not appear from the outside. It is very much part of our deeds. Allah calls Himself Shadidul Aqab. And Quran says, Sal Bani Israila kam atainahum min ayatin bayyinatin wa man yubaddil ni'matallahi min ba'di ma ja'athu fa inna Allaha shadidul iqab. That is, Allah's law of requital chases everyone and nothing can escape its grip. Ask Bani Israel how many clear signs we have sent them. And this is the state of the Muslims of today as well. But if anyone after Allah's favor has come to him, substitutes it with something else. And that is what they do. That whatever instructions Allah has given in the Quran, they go against it. Allah is strict in retribution. And we can see that being displayed in today's world. Next is some verses related to this divine attribute. In the case of the destruction of the people of Thamud, Quran says, Wala yakhafu ukbaha. And for him there is no fear regarding its outcomes. And this is very important. I included it over here when I was going through the classification of the Quran. People supplicate to Allah and they expect that some help will come from His direction. Whereas in the Quran, He has made it very clear that these are my laws and I do not go against them. So why do people supplicate? Because they do not understand the laws of Allah and they think that, like their own emotions, where they tolerate a lot of nonsense and also they do a lot of injustices in the world and they think they will get away with that. So it is important that we should understand Allah's divine attributes so that we do not make mistakes which lead to forming very wrong concepts. Whatever is carried out as a moment, it needs to be referred back to Allah's laws. And Quran says, Allazina in makannahum fil arde aqamus salata wa atabuz zakata wa amaru bil marufe wa nahwanil munkare wa lillahi aqibatul amur. Those who, if we establish them in the land, establish salat, execute zakat, enjoin the right and forbid evil, with Allah rests the end of all affairs. And see, everything goes back to Allah's laws. And if we understand Allah's laws, then we will also say to everyone that in this system of deen, walillahi aqibatul amur is the value. because everything we will go back to the Quran. Nothing from our own desires and wishes will be included, because unguided desires and wishes create problems. In the matter of administering any punishment, it must fit the crime proportionally. And in this relation as well, Quran has said, وَإِنْ أَقَبْتُمْ فَآكِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا أُكِبْتُمْ بِهِ. And if you do catch them out no worse than they catch you. In another place, Quran says, وَمَنْ أَقَبَ بِمِثْلِ مَا أُكِبَ بِهِ. And if one has retaliated to no greater extent than the injury he received. A very important principle noted over here by the Quran is that punishment should be proportionate to the crime people have committed. So that means all of these things will have to be defined. But at the same time, then Quran says, then the verse ends with this, Inna Allaha la afuwan Ghafoor. Verily Allah is overlooking and protecting. That means that the nature of crime will also be looked into it, and the background to it, and the context of it. Because the whole point is not to punish people, but to give them training, education, so that they can realize the mistakes they are making and how much harm they are causing themselves in terms of their life of the hereafter. Holding on to the guidance of Allah firmly leads to understanding Islam. وَمَنْ يُسْلِمْ وَجْهَهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَهُوَ مُحْسِنٌ فَقَدِ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى وَإِلَى اللَّهِ عَاقِبَةُ الْأُمُورِ. Whoever submits himself to Allah and is muhsin, that is doing all those balanced deeds which are noted in the Quran, has grasped a trustworthy handhold, and with Allah rests the end and decision of all matters. And this means that we should be absolutely 100% convinced that whatever we are doing in this life is bound to face us at some point in the later part of our life and in the hereafter. A few more verses to elaborate some more aspects. The Quran tells us that in the world, the clash between Haqq and Batil will continue to take place. We should ensure that we are on the side of Al-Haqq. And of course, we can only be on the side of Al-Haqq if we know what Al-Haqq is. But ultimately, the success will be with that Jamaat, which is the flag bearer of Al-Haqq. And that has to be created if there is no Jamaat existing in the world. Hence, in the Quran, wherever there is mention of Aqbat, of Mu'mineen and Muttaqeen, over there we need to keep this reality in front of us. So Aqbat in relation to Mu'mineen and also Aqbat in relation to Kafireen. Go about in the world and see what is the end of those who disobey the laws of Allah. The Quran says, قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ سُنَانٌ فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Many were the ways of life that have passed away before you. Travel through the earth and see what was the end of those who deliberately rejected the guidance. And we can see what is going on in the world of today and how their aqbat is taking care of them. The end result of obeying shaitan is that both man plus shaitan, فَكَانَ عَاقِبَاتُهُمَا أَنَّهُمَا فِي النَّارِ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا ذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الظَّالِمِينَ. The end of both will be that they will go into the fire. So we should not be satisfied that if somebody is doing wrong and we are somehow associated with them, then somehow we will save ourselves. No way, according to the Quran, we will become partners in crime, partners in doing wrong. Dwelling therein forever, this is the recompense of those who are zalimeen. And we know zalimeen means those who do injustice, who move the things from those places where they are meant to be and they move them away. The universe is functioning to provide support to the followers of the guidance of Allah. Qala Musa liqawmihi astaeenu billahi wasbiru innal arda lillahi yurisuha man yasha'u min ibadihi wal aqibatul lil muttaqeen. Very reassuring verse. And it tells us that if we follow the laws of Allah, individual to collective, then there is no way that our efforts will go to waste if these are in congruence with the value system of the Quran. The messenger Musa said to his people that seek for help from Allah and manifest sabr, that is, you should remain steadfast. Because the results don't appear quickly. These take time. It will be many years before the results start to manifest themselves. For the earth belongs to Allah, and that is the important point. Innal arda lillahi. It is Allah's earth. It is not man's earth. Man is over here temporary. Man owns nothing except his own self, to give its heritage to his servants as per his law. So the important thing is to become his abd. And the end is for those who are muttaqeen. Now, expanding the horizon of I through divine attributes. Becoming aware of the existence of one's own I and its associated consciousness. This is important for us in case we want to manifest these divine attributes within our own I. We should be able to differentiate that I exist, and we should be fully aware of it, that is, of our own existence. And this existence, for example, we can check it when we go to sleep, this I becomes suspended. Deciphering the complex connection between intellect, desires, emotions, memory, senses, and I put down all 5 senses: hearing, seeing, touching, tasting, smell, choice, intent, the brain and its manifestations. And we can see when we go to sleep, the brain is gone into some kind of a recovery mode. Cognitive functioning, etc. And within cognitive functioning, we know metacognitive functioning as well, where we carry out thinking about thinking. For example, whatever I'm reading out and explaining over here, every one of us is not only listening, but analyzing it as well. Finding the higher purpose of life and the possibility of the existence of a life after physical death. This possibility becomes a known inner reality as human self strengthens to acquire higher eminence. And it is a good practice to look at our own inner self on a weekly basis, that what kind of a self I'm possessing, what are my weaknesses and vulnerabilities, what are my strengths, what good I have done, and have I lived up to the expectations of the Quran or not. So all these things we should carry out assessment of our own self, evaluation of our own self, because every passing week means that week is gone. It is not going to come back. Higher inner awakening leading to further exploration of one's inner world of consciousness. This is required for the establishment of Deen, as it provides firm conviction in the cause of Allah and its validity. Realization of the existence of other human beings possessing the same I. This is very important as well, because other human beings around us possess exactly the same I, the same self. So we have to respect them as equal beings, and exactly the same self or nafs. So over here we should come out of our biological affinities and relationships and start looking at the mankind as one big brotherhood. This needs to become an effortless presence in our consciousness, i.e., to be aware of it in the same way that we know my own I exists. Understanding the finer aspects of the human psyche by accessing those latent potentials from which, when they become manifested, the self acquires higher eminence, courage, strength, determination, and an affinity with other similar selves. So these divine attributes should remain our mind all the time, and we should be displaying them to the best of our ability in the outer world with a view to turn ourselves into a highly lofty and eminent self. For the development of own self's need to interact with other human beings, this is also important. We cannot cut ourselves off even if we have acquired Iman. It has to interact with others in order to strengthen itself and then to work towards the system of Deen, because all these human beings who are living in the world will be part of that system of Deen as and when it comes. And developing this conviction that without this interaction, the self can never become deserving of the system of Deen. Because it is Allah's word, these are Allah's human beings created by Him, and our role as His companion is to follow the Quran. Now over here I've included this slide which we shared previously. There is some amendments, some modifications done in it. creating need and desire to replace the contents of our consciousness. We all have intellect and consciousness and an I at the center of it, and we are using our brain and increase happiness and minimize pain. That is at the lower level, that each human being wishes to increase his own happiness and minimize his own pain. And he likes wealth, and Quran has also said that you should spend it despite having attraction for the wealth, because that is the way self develops. Pursuit of own desires, we can see plenty of human beings around us pursuing their desires, some good, some not so good. Job, business, people need it to live their life. Cars, people like cars. Houses, our house. Power, they like power, and they wish to be associated with power as well. And this is where the beauty of the Quran is, that he is saying that we know that you like power, and how would you like to be associated with the infinitely power creator of the world? And that is what the companionship of Allah means. It makes human being free from looking for power from human beings. Fame, and then competitive. And Quran says, Al-Hakumut takasur hatta zurtumul makabir, that don't get into that kind of a competition. If you want to compete, then compete in bir, compete in good, and think that I want to be the best human being, the best mu'min, the best muttaqi, the best saleh, the best muhsin in the world. And that is the way we should all look for it, because there is no upper limit to it. Media plus politics influences this intellect, and dissonances also reside over there. That is why there are differences in the world. The only way to remove these dissonances is to come to the Quran. The Quran invites us to change our unbridled perspective, that is Iblis plus Shaitan, or state of kufr, to a moment perspective. Why? Because life at self's level does not end with death. And that is something which we should keep reminding ourselves, that my life will not end with death. And have I created the new life? And what does that new life mean? What is the procedure for freeing our minds and hearts from the chains we willingly or unwittingly acquire and then do not wish or even think to free ourselves? There are loads of chains we carry with us, which the man-made system has imposed on us, and some we have imposed ourselves. And we should identify those chains as well, that these are the chains which are holding me back. And we have gone through now a number of aspects from the Quran in terms of self-development, and we can easily identify those chains for ourselves. And then from this dark mind to a transparent, a bright mind. Concept of Allah, we have gone through it. Afterlife, we have also covered it in fair amount of detail. Accountability, I think we are now fully aware of it, that accountability exists, and how we can use this accountability to our advantage by becoming highly conscious and responsible for our thoughts and deeds. Yateem and Miskeen, we know that Yateem and Miskeen are in the world, which are the creation of man-made system, not created by Allah. Allah has kept plenty of means of sustenance in this planet. Iman plus solid deeds, we know about this formula. And acquired divine attributes, we have gone through some of these divine attributes as well, and their importance in terms of putting them in our brain, in our mind. So the important thing is that this consciousness which we have, we should look at its contents every day and see that have we managed to put this concept of Allah, which is given in the Quran, in this consciousness. Doesn't matter what we are doing in terms of earning our living. The important thing is, as a concept, it must be in our mind in case we wish to get the best from the Quran. Simplified model of the contents of the human psyche, coming to grips with the contents of the priorities of the man-made systems and their effects on the human psyche. Because man-made system and its belief system is harmful for our psyche. It destroys our psyche, it contaminates it, and it prevents us from understanding the Quran as well and its finer aspects. The concept of material needs and implications of assuming life ends with death. Understanding the existence of the self and recognizing its latent potentials and their emergence and development. Two fundamental constituents on which Iman is predicated: concept of Allah plus the concept of the existence of the hereafter in relation to the human psyche. Thanks for your time and for sharing this today. Please feel free to share it with your contacts. You may like to subscribe for future talks related to the Quranic system of Deen.